Hello everyone, welcome to the week 7 live session for critical thinking. Thank you everybody. I know you've been waiting a few minutes, just having a quick technical issue solved now. So thank you all for coming. Happy Monday evening. Let's begin this week by going over the checklist for the week. Then we're going to have a brief lesson on kind of supplementary to our presentation, which is about language. And we're going to be talking about emotive language versus cognitive language, what all of that means, and how it applies to our assignment and the discussion for this week. So let's take a look at the checklist to begin with. If you are joining us live tonight, please do type your name into the chat box at this time. That way I know that you will be credited for attendance, plus I will know that you are hearing me okay. Also, at any given time, please let me know if you cannot hear me okay. What happens is I'll get really loud and then it turns my microphone down. So that is what happens. All right, so it looks like we may not be getting any sound. Are you guys hearing me okay? David, Jose, Blair, Redmond? Sorry for the delay, just making sure that we can hear, because it doesn't look like it's actually registering anything. All right, just one moment. I need to solve the sound issue. I'm going to pause the recording. Please bear with me just 1 minute. All right, looks like we got that situated. So sorry for all the technical issues today. I have no idea why, but it decided to deselect my microphone. Okay, we're back. So thank you again. Make sure you have typed into the chat box. If you've typed anything in there, you're fine. I think everybody has. Okay, so back to our checklist before we were so rudely sidetracked by myself. Okay, so week 7 checklist, we've got our reading, which is chapter 7, the power of language. Doing the online presentation as usual, they are really good and directly related to the assignment. We always make sure of that. Also, we have the discussion 7.1, an assignment 7.1, and we have a quiz. That is our checklist for the week. And now let's talk a little bit about language. So we're going to take a look at some slides, and as I did last week, I will make these slides available by tomorrow in the doc sharing area of the course. So you do not have to worry about that, and you will be able to have those. Okay, and again, I'm not going to go into full slide mode this time. I found this way was much, much better last time. So. Also, please do, if you, yeah, Agnes says it's Monday. It's definitely a Monday, so thanks for bearing with me with the problem. So we're going to start off talking about the language today. And, you know, language is an amazing thing. And when we're talking about critical thinking, so we're now coming into week 7 into critical thinking. We've only got 4 weeks left. And we have discussed the importance of understanding arguments, seeing fallacies, seeing logical fallacies, being able to really analyze the information that comes at us each and every day. And I'll bet you, if you've been really kind of letting this soak in, you're starting to pay attention to quite a few different things out there, and really see that a lot of people really have a lot of weak argumentation skills. And once you kind of have unlocked that, it really gives you a leg up on being able to analyze and think clearly about things as possible with given the information that you're given. So that's really the whole point of this class. And I hope you've enjoyed it so far. And it is really, I would say, empowering to know this material. So let's take a look at language. Language, of course, man is the symbol-using animal. Language is really just a system of symbols that represent things that we know. And we really think that language happens on the left side of the brain. So, and the left side is very symbolic. And so we'll know something, and then we put a symbol to it. And what are those symbols? Those symbols are words. So we really use words all of the time, and words can do two things. They can clarify and make something easier to understand, or they can really muddy the water. So they can really make the issues more obscure and you don't know what's going on. So words we can use for good or we can use for evil, so to speak. So think about this. Think of a holiday, any holiday that you want. And just think about that holiday for a moment and what kinds of things immediately pop to mind when you're thinking of that particular holiday. So let's see if you guys are paying attention. Type your holiday into the chat box and see what holiday you came up with. It'd be kind of interesting. And obviously, when you think about something, it brings to mind all of these different things. Good, you guys are thinking about Thanksgiving. Very good. Halloween is another one to think about. I think Halloween is the next one coming up, right? The next major one. I'm not positive about that, but I think so. And sure, that brings to mind pumpkins and candy and goblins and so forth. Everything associated with Halloween. Thanksgiving, of course, and then we've got the Thanksgiving dinner and all of the things associated with Thanksgiving Day, family, most likely. So whenever we think of one thing, right, it brings to mind all kinds of other things. And writers and people who are giving speeches often use this against us in a way. So language is very powerful, and the words that you specifically use can really, really change the perception from the person listening. So the power of language, there's two things, denotation and connotation. So it's really important to understand the difference between these two things. And it's really actually simple. Denotation and connotation are what I call $5 words, but they mean something really simple. So denotation is simply the dictionary definition of something. So if I say computer, the denotation of a computer is a machine with a processor that is used in learning or whatever it is. So that's really the dictionary, that's really the literal or what we call the denotation of the word. But words, the very same words, also carry what we call a connotation. So connotation is the other things that come to mind. Kind of like when we said Thanksgiving or when we said Halloween, it's all of the different images that come flooding in right away. And oftentimes it's not just images that are coming in, it's feelings. And that's where language becomes really, really powerful. So it's in the connotation of the word. The connotation is all the stuff that goes along with it. So when I say computer, how do you feel about computer? Well, that's a kind of different whole thing. And for you, that's the connotation of the word computer. for you and the emotional meanings that it has for you in particular. So the meaning is all in your mind. So we also have what we call semantic differential. So let's take a look at this. Two words that mean the very same thing, a female, is a lady and a woman. Right? Literally, there's probably hundreds of words for this very same thing. But what is the connotation to each of these words? So it's really important which one you actually select. So when you say lady, it's kind of a nice thing to say, so it's perceived as sort of good. But also what it says about the person is that that person may be passive or weak. So these are the possible connotations that come along with the word lady. But if you chose to use the word woman, well, you're evoking a whole different set of connotations. So when the word woman is more associated with active, strong, and not necessarily good or bad, but kind of neutral. So those are the connotations that go along with the word. And we see this in information all of the time. So it's something really interesting to do maybe tonight or in the morning. Watch a little bit of the news, and you will find all of these tricks in the news. Even in the weather report, the words that they use, I'm always quite amazed at the words that they use in the weather report in Los Angeles. So it usually starts out with another beautiful day, but they're not, it's interesting that they're using the word beautiful. It makes you feel a certain way, and no matter what it's like, they're often using these words. So listen to this and listen to it in commercials also. So here's, in a name, we can use the power of words to slant something, basically to create a nicer effect, or to create a more negative effect. So we can put a positive or a negative spin on whatever we're saying just by picking the words that we use in our language and the connotations and the denotations of those words. So, for instance, so you have two groups of people, right? The people that believe abortion is wrong and the people that believe abortion is right. And the way that you describe these, look at how different you can either go really negative or you can go really positive. So you can describe those that believe abortion is wrong by saying they're anti-abortionist, anti-choice, right? Those are definitely negative, or pro-life, and that sounds really positive. On the same stroke of the coin, abortion is right, people that believe that, you could call them pro-abortion, anti-life, how's that sound? Or pro-choice. So depending on how you want to spin it is the words that you're going to use. So we do this all of the time. And it's a technique that in critical thinking, we need to know that this is happening. Can you believe it that there is 108 words for sweet potato, 65 different words for fishing nets, and 47 for banana? So, meanings are really in your mind. And the meaning for you that comes about with the words is what we call the connotation. How do you interpret the word love? Well, that's basically going to be yours and yours alone. So see how many, many different people also have their own meanings for things. So what love means to you is probably, most likely, different to everybody in this class, and every single person has a different idea of what that exactly is. All right. So we're going to end this presentation with looking at a few little tricks that can be used with language. And a lot of times this is used on purpose. So the first one is called vagueness. So when we're being vague, we're basically using non-specific or abstract words. The meaning is really unclear. So things like speedy trial, wetlands, endangered species. Endangered species can really, you would think that endangered species is absolute. Everybody knows what an endangered species is, but it's actually really not. There's all sorts of different definitions. There's disagreements on when a species becomes endangered. How about driving dangerously, or the word poverty? That's going to have a lot of different meanings for different things, and when you use these sort of words, it's kind of blurring the vision a little bit. And so they can be used on purpose for that reason. Another thing that we see with language, another problem, is ambiguity. So lots of things have two or more different meanings. And we see this a lot, especially with kind of poorly written sentences. Or it may be poorly written on purpose in order to confuse you. So equivocation means that you can basically equate the meaning to two separate different things. So let's take a look at, do women need to worry about man-eating sharks? And the reason why that's ambiguous is because obviously we're confusing the meaning of man-eating. Man-eating is supposed to mean people-eating, but we're confusing that meaning. How about this? The lady hit the man with an umbrella. So did the lady hit the man who was holding the umbrella, or did she hit the guy over the head with an umbrella? So there are two totally separate possible meanings for that. And that's what we call ambiguity. Another thing, a type of problem, is called doublespeak. So doublespeak are those things that we use, and euphemism is one way to do this. We'll look at that in a moment. And we're saying something, but we're kind of making ourselves look good. So we're making the bad look good. So here, for instance, when the USA is in agreement with a paramilitary organization fighting a government that we hate, the media will refer to them as freedom fighters. But on the other hand, if a group is fighting against the government that we wish to keep, we call them terrorists or rebels. And it's basically describing the same thing, only depending on our perspective. Euphemism is another way, and you see this all of the time. It's basically trying to soften harsh realities and using words, things like friendly fire. We know what friendly fire means. That is when our military basically killed by one of our other military people. For some reason, something happened internally, and it was not from the enemy, but it happened. Dangerous being out there in war anyway. And that's what we'll call that friendly fire. But it's interesting use of language. Really there's absolutely nothing friendly about the fire. Right? And we'll say things like passed away instead of died. So we do that all of the time. If you guys can think of any euphemisms like this, friendly fire, type them into the chat box. It'd be kind of interesting to hear. Another form of doublespeak is putting a spin on things. So, kind of like what I was talking about with the weather report. Another beautiful day here in Southern California. Maybe if you happen to be not from Southern California, this topic might be. And the last kind of problem with the language that we'll talk about is legal words. So these are words that kind of help us retreat from direct statements and undermine claims. So what do you think is the most often used legal word in advertising? Yeah, so Reginald said big boned, not fat. Yep, I would say that's a euphemism. Passed away and said died, definitely. Circumlocution. You may need to explain that one to us. So, weasel word. What do you think is the biggest weasel word in advertising? Well, you can see it down there in the notes. Help. So we use the word help all of the time. So this medicine will help you lose weight. These shoes will help you walk better. This car will help you get to where you're going. So, and it's a way of kind of weaseling out, because it's not saying that the cream will prevent acne. It's saying that the cream will help prevent acne. So it's just helping. It's not. So if it doesn't work, it's okay, because well, it may not be working right now, but it's helping. And so so truth in advertising, not really. It's legal. Those are interesting ways of looking at it. So the importance of this skill is recognizing words are used to deceive and confuse readers. All right, so if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box now. We're going to go ahead and look at the assignment and discussion for this week. All right, so assignment 7.1. So we're given, as you're starting to get used to, I'm sure by now, we have a scenario. And so we're going to read the scenario, and then we're going to basically do some analyzing of the arguments presented in the scenario. Okay, so this is assignment 7.1. As usual, you want to aim for about 250 words. And most importantly, make sure you're answering all of the questions. So see all these boxes down here, the little light blue boxes. Make sure that all of these questions are answered. That seems to be one of the most common mistakes that students will make in writing these assignments, is that you forget to answer some of these questions. So you want to at least take your best stab at answering all of those questions. All right, so let's read the scenario first. You are a speechwriter for the mayor of Oakland. This is an election year, and already the mayor's opposition is out in force. Henry Levine, the leading GOP candidate, recently aired an advertisement on local television blasting the mayor for his handling of the city's recent demonstrations, most of which are aimed at overturning the current financial structure of Oakland. So here is the speech. We know that Mayor Brooks, a graduate of Johns Hopkins Business School, is an intelligent man. He graduated first in his class and received the 1997 Young Economist Essay Award, becoming the youngest recipient in history to do so. Why then do we, the upstanding residents of Oakland, find our streets littered with young and disgruntled beggars, calling for anarchy as a solution to the status quo? We need to look no further than the house of cards built by our current mayor. Oaklanders deserve better than what this mayor can offer. They deserve what I, Henry Levine, can offer each and every Oaklander next year. All right, so there's the speech. And you're supposed to be writing the rebuttal to the speech. Okay? So before you can begin writing the mayor's rebuttal, you must first analyze the qualities present in Henry Levine's initial argument. In a one-page, 250-word letter to Mayor Brooks, address it the following as it pertains to Levine's. So here are the questions that we need to make sure that we're addressing in our assignment. When does So number one, when does Henry Levine's speech consist of primarily cognitive content? When is it primarily emotive? Now these are terms that come from your presentation, and I think the cognitive content is very similar to what we were talking about with denotation. So cognitive content is kind of like the dictionary definition of words, whereas emotive content are all of the things, the emotions, the thoughts that flood into your head, like when you're thinking about Thanksgiving. So where in Henry Levine's speech do we see any kind of cognitive content? So him describing Mayor Brooks, that he's an intelligent person and that he won a Young Economist Essay Award. That kind of information is cognitive. It's not really meant to do too much emotively, although we're wondering why he's complimenting his opponent. But we know that the sucker punch is about to come right afterwards. So he compliments him and then says, well, if he's so smart, what's going on here in all these vagrants all over the street, you know, trying to perform anarchy? So obviously when we're talking, when we see the words, things like young and disgruntled vagrant, definitely some emotive language there. He's no longer being nice and impartial and kind of dictionary definition. All right, and the second question. What are the primary benefits of using primarily cognitive content within this political context? What are the benefits of emotive content? So why do you think he's using some cognitive content? What's the deal with him basically saying that Mayor Brooks won the Young Economist Essay Award, being the first or the youngest to do so? Those are all kind of cognitive information. And then we see him completely switch to completely just emotive stuff. Especially with the really weak last sentence there. They deserve what I, Henry Levine, can offer each and every Oaklander. I love these sort of completely empty statements that you hear in political debate every single time. Right? He's making an empty statement. What I can offer each and every Oaklander next year. I mean, it's puzzle. So it's the same thing. Have you guys ever seen the insurance commercials for with the caveman? And basically the story with the commercials is it's so easy that even a caveman can do it. Right? And that's the whole thing, and that's all they ever talk about. Right? Well, what in the world does that mean? For an insurance, it's easy, so they think it's easy to sign up for it. I mean, they never really say exactly what it is, but that's the whole message. Right? So that's what we see with emotive language rather than cognitive. Third question is identify any occurrence of bias within Levine's speech. How can bias influence reliability? So, so what is the bias that he's using there? You know, we can definitely say he's saying that these people who are protesting are basically calling for anarchy as a solution to the status quo. So that's a very biased thing to say. It's obviously very filled with his beliefs. So look for those biases. If you can see other ones, there's lots of stuff in here to really talk about. And then the fourth question, evaluate the soundness of Henry Levine's message. Do you believe his ideas are being clearly conveyed? Why or why not? So see how there's like 4 questions in that last one. So those are important things to address. So do you believe that he is presenting a sound argument? Do you see any kind of false cause in there? Do you see any red herrings? What other kind of fallacies maybe do you see in there? Don't forget to look back over the presentations for the last couple of weeks and talking about all sorts of different fallacies. And see if you see any of that coming up in the argument presented. Do you believe his ideas are being clearly conveyed? So is he clearly conveying his ideas and discuss why or why not? And perhaps being clear about what you're saying, I mean, his position is certainly coming across, isn't it? But also it relates with all of the emotive languages that make pictures of the other side. So that's the assignment for this week. Any questions on that? Please do chat, type into the chat window. And we're going to take a look at our discussion. We will be done. All right, so here we've got another scenario that we're going to read and analyze the argument and then discuss it in the discussion thread. So number one, let's go ahead and read this dialogue. Dagmar says, we should vote for the bond issue to build a new park. And Jay says, no way, that's going to cost the taxpayers a fortune, and I won't even use that park. Dagmar says, you might not use it, but it will make our property values higher and will provide an important resource for the city's residents. And Jay says, I don't want to pay for a park. It's a white elephant. I'd rather see the city spend money on something that is going to bring in money and create jobs. And Dagmar says, well, my mom says that there are plenty of jobs associated with a park. And Jay says, what does your mom know? All right. So we already should be thinking of, oh, wow, I see some fallacies going on already. Especially, so it looks at, let's look at the questions here before we get off on a tangent. Number one, how should we evaluate the statements made by Jay and Dagmar? What makes for good evidence? Does one of these speakers have a stronger case than the other? Are they arguing on the same emotional level, or is one speaker more emotional than the other? So which person is using emotive language and which person is using more cognitive language? Right? Which person is more convincing, would you say, and why? So are you more likely to believe Jay because he's passionate about what he believes in and he's using emotive language, or are you more likely to believe Dagmar because she sounds level-headed and is not presenting as much as bias? Okay, so that's our discussion, and as always with the discussion, you try to answer all of the questions here and take your very best shot at it, and don't forget to respond to at least 2 other students in the discussion as well. If you have any questions at this time, please go ahead and type it into the chat box. I'll also go ahead and turn off my microphone here at the end of the session so that you can keep on the microphone. I'll hang out for a little while, and if you have any questions, let me know. And thank you for coming to the Week 7 live session. See you next week.